I'm curious, like if you put yourself in the shoes of, let's call it like a brand manager, somebody that's the head of insights, they're working in the existing brand system today. But then a lot of what you guys are suggesting, I think, is amazing. Like if you were in their shoes, like what would you be doing to get insight? Maybe start with maximizing what you have access to from the corporate perspective, but what are some specific tangible things that you would be going to do to get insight, to get outside the walls of the corporation and help startups?
Yeah, sure. I think one thing just off the bat is like reach out to accelerator programs and tell them you want to help their companies. Like very rarely are people going to turn that down. And there's a bunch of awesome programs out there. And that's just a good way to understand how startups think. Obviously, don't like tell them what to do. There's a fine line of mentorship and helping and doing that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of number one table stakes to me. And then the second thing is, look at the companies. It's pretty easy. You just look at the companies that are the most successful companies in your industry, right? So if you're let's say a beverage company, you see that Spindrift is doing really well or something like that. Talk to all their investors. All this information is generally public. Ping them and say, hey, look, we might buy companies of yours in the future. Can I just talk to you about what we're doing, what you're doing? To me, the people who are building things and the investors who are helping those things be built kind of have an extremely vested interest in knowing what's happening in the market at any given time. And from an education perspective, they tend to be pretty open to talk to big businesses. And so I think that tends to be a pretty good avenue for just like getting started and having those conversations.
Yeah. The only thing I would add is I think this is a world, comprised of, many people who think about how to solve problems. And so the only thing I would add is as you go have those conversations with accelerators, investors, startup founders, talk openly about the problems that you want to solve, right? Like, or the, market that you're thinking about, or, the product that you had high hopes for, but isn't showing the signs of success that you had hoped, because I think often this is a world of people that are attracted to solving problems. So if you start to put, sort of out there in the ecosystem, what you need help with, you'll often find people kind of knocking on your door to help solve those things.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think there's two things I'd kind of encourage, and frankly, it's what I did when I was sitting as a brand manager and kind of getting into this world. The first and foremost is understanding that relationships in this area are different than the relationships you're used to. Whether you like it or not, if you're a brand manager, most of your relationships are transactional relationships. You pay your agency, you pay your media companies, hell, you even pay Facebook and Google. Just because they take you out for a bunch of drinks doesn't mean they're your best friends. Like, it's transactional world that exists there. The entrepreneurial world is a relationship world. And the relationships with investors and with entrepreneurs and with everything else, you need to build that relationship capital before you can build transactional capital. And so get out there and figure out how to do that. If I look at the venture relationships that are most valuable for me today, are ones that were built, to Luke's point, over drinks. Gotham and I sitting down in Sand Hill Road, having drinks with, some great guys back in 2009. You build those relationships. We didn't have anything that anybody wanted out of the other person at that time, but you build the relationship and you invest the time, the money, the effort, and things will come out of it. That's a big mistake I think people make. And you make it by outsourcing all of this activity and not taking advantage of these opportunities to have those relationships. I saw it just, recently, there was a very large company that did a competition to get startups to apply. And they only selected a few that were finalists, but then they had the outside company that was running the back end for them be the one that sent the rejection note to those other entrepreneurs. Like, that's the stupidest thing you could ever do. Like, you should be building a relationship with everyone that took time to engage with you, not just the ones you somehow decided were the top ones. So you need to do that. And then the flip side is, I'd say, remember the value of being a hobbyist. The cool thing is, if you're a brand manager right now, go try and launch a business on Amazon. Go stand up a Shopify site. Like, go do these things on the side that can help you learn about what an entrepreneur is going through. Because it's a really unique time that you can spend a couple $100 and go practice that stuff. Remember, Steve Wozniak was a member of the Homebrew Computer Club on the side. The best craft brewers were brewing at home on the side. Like, be a hobbyist and learn. because that can give you some really unique insight then as you go talk to entrepreneurs and do stuff on the day job.